I've lived alone on this ranch for so long, people forget I'm still alive. The land out here does that to a man, stretches him thin, dries him out, and leaves his voice echoing inside his own skull like he's the last soul left under God's sky. They call me Giant Colt Avery, a quiet man, a tall man, a man who didn't choose solitude, but didn't fight it either. Most days, I wake before dawn, before even the coyotes remember to howl. I step out onto the porch, stretch out my shoulders, and look across 50 miles of empty frontier, my only companion until sundown. That morning, something felt wrong the moment the sun rose. A strange hush hung over the land, like the air itself was holding its breath. I saddled my horse, checked the fence line, fed the cattle, the usual routine, but my chest felt tight, as if something was coming toward me from far away, something I couldn't stop. I didn't know they were already on their way. It was near noon when I first saw them. 3 dust-covered figures walking, slow along the dirt road that leads nowhere except my ranch. Nobody wanders this direction unless they're lost. Or desperate. I slid my rifle off my shoulder, not out of fear, but habit. When they got close enough, I finally saw their faces. 3 daughters, sisters, exhausted, sunburned, beautiful in that fragile, frontier-tested way. Dresses torn at the hem, boots muddy, eyes carrying more secrets than luggage. The eldest, tall, serious, the kind whose silence speaks louder than talk. The middle one, wary, restless, always glancing over her shoulder. And the youngest, wide-eyed, like she wasn't used to fear but was learning quickly. They stopped at my gate. The eldest stepped forward and cleared her throat. "Mr. Avery?" "Colt," I corrected. She nodded. "Colt, our father, sent us here." Her voice cracked on the word father, like she was swallowing back something heavy. I studied them quietly. "Sent you here for what?" This time the middle one answered, sharper voice, trembling only at the edges. "As punishment." Punishment. The word hung in the hot air between us, ugly and confusing. I'd seen fathers send sons to chop wood for misbehavior, daughters to sewing tables or church benches. But this? Sending 3 grown daughters, on foot across the frontier, to a giant loner nobody had visited in years. That wasn't punishment. That was desperation or fear. I opened the gate slowly. "Come inside. The sun will kill you quicker than any punishment." They followed me toward the porch, hesitant steps, glancing around like they expected someone else to appear, or something. The eldest introduced them once we sat. Her name was Mara, the middle one, Elise, the youngest, Taya. I poured water into tin, cups, and watched them drink like they hadn't tasted relief in days. "You girls walked all the way out here alone?" I asked. Mara nodded. "Father ordered us to. And he said you were the only man who—" She stopped herself. "Who what?" I asked. Her jaw tightened. "Who'd keep us safe." "Safe? Safe from what?" Elise's fingers twisted the edge of her dress. Taya shivered, though the heat was choking. Before I could press them, Mara reached into a small sack and pulled out a folded letter. "Father told us to give you this." I took it, recognizing the handwriting before I even unfolded it. His name alone made my stomach sink. I opened the letter. Only one sentence stared back at me, ink smeared like it had been written in a hurry. "Colt Avery, you owe me. Keep them until the danger passes." Danger. That word hit my nerves like a rattlesnake's rattle. I looked up at the girls. "What danger is he talking about?" None of them spoke, but Elisa's eyes darted toward the tree line behind my barn, the shadowed place where the wind never blew right. That's when I felt it. You live in the frontier long enough. You learn when you're being watched. And someone, was watching us at that very moment. A heavy stillness settled over the property. Even the horses grew nervous, hooves shifting in the dirt. I stood slowly. "You 3 wait on the porch." But before I could take a step off it, Taya grabbed the edge of my coat. "Please," she whispered. "Don't leave us alone." Her voice wasn't girlish fear. It was terror rooted deep. I crouched beside her. "What happened before you got here?" She swallowed hard. "Father told us to run. To reach you, he said. He said you were the only one who could keep us alive." Alive. My grip tightened on the wood railing. "What's after you?" Mara finally spoke, quiet but firm. "Not what, who?" The wind picked up suddenly, sweeping dry dust across the yard. And that's when I saw it, a silhouette standing far off by the old cottonwood tree. Tall, motionless, watching us. Not a neighbor, not a traveler, something else. Someone who knew exactly who I was, and who these girls were. I didn't lift my rifle right away. Instead, I stepped in front of the sisters, shielding them without thinking. Because in that moment, without words, without answers, I understood one thing. Whatever their father sent them running from had followed them here. And now it stood on my land, watching, waiting, and it wasn't leaving. Not tonight, maybe not ever. The silhouette by the cottonwood didn't move, didn't tilt its head, didn't shift its weight, just stood there, like it was part of the tree itself, grown from shadow instead of bark. The three sisters huddled behind me, breath trembling against my back. I gripped my rifle but didn't raise it yet, not out of fear, but understanding. I'd seen shapes like that before, years ago, shapes that only appear when something in your past crawls back to settle its debt. And I had debts, more than I ever admitted. I stepped down from the porch, boots thudding against the dry earth. My shadow stretched long behind me, covering the girls as if instinct was guiding it. "Stay put," I said quietly. Mara whispered, "Colt, don't go toward it." But curiosity, or fate, or just plain foolishness pushed me forward. The sun dipped lower as I walked, turning the sky blood orange. The silhouette stayed frozen. The closer I got, the more details sharpened. It was a man, or what used to be one. Tall, nearly my height, broad shoulders, hat brim low covering his eyes. But the air around him, it felt wrong. Too cold for the heat of the frontier, too still for the swirling dust. When I reached speaking distance, I stopped. "What business you got on my land?" I asked. No answer, just that quiet, unnatural cold. The wind was blowing against him, yet his coat didn't move. Not an inch. I tightened my grip on the rifle. "You follow those girls out here? If so, you best turn around. They're under my roof now." Still nothing. Then, the head lifted just a little. Enough to see the jawline. Enough to feel the weight of recognition settle in my bones. I knew that face, but it didn't belong to a living man. The last time I saw him, he was bleeding out beside a wagon, whispering a name I never should have heard. A secret I promised would stay buried in the dust of that canyon. Yet here he stood, whole, silent, watching me with eyes I couldn't see. I took one slow step back. "Not possible," I muttered under my breath. Behind me on the porch, Elise let out a sharp gasp. That broke whatever thread was holding the thing still. The silhouette took one deliberate step toward me, the earth crunching under boots that sounded too heavy to be human. I raised the rifle instantly. Not to shoot, but to warn. "Another step," I said quietly, "and I drop you." The figure froze again, almost obedient. But that cold, that awful cold, pulsed stronger, creeping across the ground toward me like it had a mind of its own. My instincts screamed. This wasn't a man coming for violence. This was a message. Something else was coming. Something bigger. I stepped back slowly toward the porch. When I reached the bottom stair, I kept my eyes locked on the figure. "Mara," I said without turning. "Get inside. All of you, now." She didn't argue. That alone told me how scared she was. The door opened. Boards creaked. Whispers rushed behind me. But I stayed outside until they were all in. Only then did I retreat and close the door behind me. Inside the cabin, the shadows felt safer than the light. Taya clung to her older sisters. Elise paced, breathing too fast. Mara stood near the table, arms crossed tightly over her chest, trying not to fall apart. I leaned the rifle against the wall. "Who is he?" I asked, voice low. "Tell me what you're running from." Mara didn't answer. Elise did. "That's the man our father buried," she whispered. My chest tightened. "Buried? Recently?" 2 nights ago. I sat down slowly, the floor creaking beneath me. "Then how the hell is he here?" Mara's voice finally broke through the silence. "Because our father didn't bury him deep enough." The room fell still. I stared at her, waiting for an explanation. But none came. "What did he do to your family?" I asked. Mara shook her head. "He didn't come for us." She paused. "He came for you." My throat went dry. "For me?" Elise stepped closer, eyes wide with fear. "Before he died, he said your name, over and over. We didn't understand why. Father didn't either." Taya's tiny voice trembled. "He said you owed him, the same words their father wrote in the letter." My skin crawled. Old memories stirred. Memories I'd done everything to bury. A night by the canyon. A man begging for mercy. A deal made in the dark. A promise I broke. I stood up abruptly. "We need to board the windows," I said. "Now." The girls moved fast. No hesitation. We dragged planks, shoved furniture against openings, hammered nails with trembling hands. Every slam echoed through the cabin. Every shadow felt like it held breath. When the last window was covered, I checked the walls again. That's when I heard it. A slow scrape. Along the outside wall, like boots dragging across the wood. Taya covered her ears. Elise froze mid-step. Mara stared at the door without blinking. The scraping stopped. Then 4 slow knocks echoed through the cabin. Not loud, not violent, just patient. 4 knocks from a dead man I once knew. I took a long breath. "Girls," I whispered, "tonight, nobody opens that door. Understand?" 3 silent nods. Because the thing standing outside wasn't a man. Not anymore. And it wasn't here for them. It was here to collect my debt. The knocks didn't come again. Not 5. Not 10. Just those 4 slow taps. Like the dead man outside wanted me to know he wasn't rushing. He had all night. Inside the cabin, silence pressed against the walls like a living thing. Even the fire hesitated to crackle, its flame shrinking low, as if it didn't want to draw attention. I took a seat near the door, rifle across my lap, eyes locked on the wood. The girls stayed behind me. Mara standing guard near the table with a kitchen knife. Elise sitting in the corner rocking back and forth. And Taya curled under a blanket, whispering prayers under her breath. Hours passed like that. No scratching, no knocking, no footsteps. Just the weight of a presence outside. Waiting. Taya broke the silence first. Colt, why is he here for you? Her voice wavered like a scared child trying to understand the shape of a nightmare. I didn't answer right away. Mostly because I didn't know where to begin, or what the truth would do to them. But Mara stepped forward. You know him, don't you? I nodded once. Her eyes sharpened. Who was he? A mistake, I whispered. One I thought the canyon would bury. Elise stopped rocking and stared at me. You killed him? I shook my head. Not exactly. The truth was worse. I rubbed a hand across my face, feeling the grit of dust and years of regret. It was 5 years ago, I began. I was riding freight between towns back then. One night, near Red Hollow, I found a wagon on its side. Broken wheel. Blood all over the dirt. Taya whimpered. I heard a man calling for help, I continued. I ran to him. He'd been shot. Twice. Said bandits tried to rob him. Mara leaned in slightly. What was his name? I stared into the dying flame. Jonas Redden. Elise inhaled sharply, covering her mouth. You helped him? I tried. I bandaged him as best I could. Gave him my canteen. Kept pressure on the wounds. But he died? Mara asked. I shook my head slowly. No, that was the problem. The memory hit me like a hammer to the ribs. The screaming. The begging. The deal struck in the darkness. He didn't want to live, I said. He kept saying something was chasing him, something worse than bandits. He begged me not to let it take him alive. Mara clasped her hands tightly. What did it mean? I looked toward the boarded window, feeling that same cold air now creeping under the frame. He never said. The fire flickered weakly, as though reacting to my words. But he begged me to make him a promise, I continued. He made me swear that if death came for him, real death, I'd bury him myself, deep, somewhere nobody would find him. I swallowed hard. He said if anyone else buried him, he wouldn't stay down. A tremor ran through Taya's small body. You didn't bury him, did you? No, I admitted. His family came for him. I told them I found him alive. I told them he fought for his life. I looked up at the ceiling. His brother insisted on burying him with their family. I didn't stop him. I didn't tell them the truth. Elise's voice cracked. And now? Now he wants to kill you. I shook my head. No. If he wanted to kill me, he'd have done it already. That was the part that scared me the most. He didn't want violence. He wanted me to finish the promise. But something else, something darker, had its grip around him now, holding him between worlds, using him as a warning. Outside, the cold seeped deeper into the cabin, settling under my skin. Mara took a step closer to me. Colt, what do we do? I took a long breath. We wait until dawn. Spirits, or whatever he's become, hate the sun. Taya looked toward the window. Then what? I didn't have an answer, but fate did, because that's when we heard it. Not knocking, not footsteps. Shoveling, slow rhythmic digging, metal scraping dirt. Elise nearly screamed. Mara dropped the knife. Taya covered her head. I stood up fast. No, that can't be. But the sound grew louder. A shovel hitting hard earth, a man digging, a grave being made, and it wasn't for him. He wanted me to hear it. He wanted me to understand. A grave was being dug. For me, the digging suddenly stopped. Moments later, something slid across the porch. Something metallic. Taya sobbed. Mara pressed her back against the wall. Elise froze. I forced myself to look. Through a crack between the boards, I saw it. A shovel. He had left it leaning against my door. A message. A command. Come finish what you promised. The scraping resumed, but farther away now, behind the barn, near the old mesquite tree where the earth was loose. He was making the hole deeper, 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 preparing a place for me. I stepped back from the door, heart pounding like hooves on hard ground. He doesn't want to kill you, Mara whispered. He wants to take you with him. Elise shook her head violently. No, it's not him. Something else is controlling him. The cold in the cabin answered for her. A sudden gust snuffed out the fire completely. Darkness swallowed us. A low groan rolled across the land. Not human, not wind. Something ancient, something hungry. I whispered the only words I could manage. Girls, stay close. Tonight's not about surviving him. It's about surviving what's coming for all of us. And outside, the digging kept going. Steady, patient, relentless. As if the frontier itself had decided my fate. The night stretched endlessly, each minute heavier than the last. I could feel it pressing against the cabin walls, crawling under the floorboards, wrapping around the sisters like invisible chains. Every shadow outside seemed alive, every whisper of wind carrying intent. I had no choice but to face it. If I stayed huddled inside, the frontier itself would claim me, and take them too. The first light of dawn was just a sliver on the horizon, when I finally made my decision. Girls, I whispered, stay in the corner, don't move, and whatever happens, don't scream. Taya clutched Mara's arm, Elise's eyes wide as she whispered prayers under her breath. I grabbed my rifle, not to kill but to defend, to make a stand. Then I stepped outside. The air was sharp with frost, the first cold bite after a long, hot summer. The silhouette stood near the mesquite tree, the loose earth piled high beside it, a grave dug for me, and in its hands, nothing, empty, waiting. I squared my shoulders. Colt Avery, I said, my voice cutting across the stillness. You came for a promise, I know. I'll finish it, but not like this. The figure tilted its head, the hat brim shadowing eyes I still couldn't see. Then the air shifted. A low rattling groan like wind over broken timbers. The dead man, Jonas, or whatever had claimed him, stepped closer. I held my ground. You want me to bury you? I asked, voice calm but firm. Fine, but I'll do it on my terms, out here, on my land, in the light of day. A pause. The cold air thinned. The groaning quieted. He stopped. The scraping ceased. I took another step forward. I owe you, I said. I didn't finish what you asked. I'll make it right, but not if you drag me into the night. Then something impossible happened. The shadow moved. Slowly. Deliberately, I'm toward the grave, but it wasn't hostile. Not anymore. It was waiting, expecting. I knelt beside the hole. Mara, Elise, and Taya watched from the porch, wide-eyed but silent. I could see the first hints of Jonas now. His face, pale, hollow but not terrifying. He looked at me, and I swear I felt something like gratitude. A warning, a release. I pulled my coat tight against the cold. With dirt-stained hands, I began filling the grave. Shovelful by shovelful, the earth fell. Each scoop of dirt felt like I was burying years of mistakes, regrets, promises broken. The weight of my life alone on this ranch. By the time the sun rose fully, golden light spilling across the horizon, the grave was covered. No marks remained. No shadows. No whispering wind. Just the vast, empty land, peaceful once more. I looked up. The girls had stepped down from the porch, standing near me. Taya reached for my hand first, then Mara and Elise. No words were spoken. We didn't need any. Something had passed between us that night. A story unspoken, but understood. The frontier, vast and unforgiving, had tested all of us. The dead man had come, demanded his debt, and left. But he hadn't taken life. He had taken my silence, my fear, my denial. I exhaled slowly. Let's go inside, I said. The cabin no longer felt small. It no longer felt haunted. It felt like home again. The girls followed me in. No one spoke. Only the sound of the wind and the faint creak of the old boards filled the space. Later, Mara whispered something I'd never forget. Our father, he wanted punishment, but maybe this night was his way of sending us to the right man. I looked at them. I could only nod. Because in all my years on the frontier, no one had walked into my life like this. 3 sisters, sent as punishment, yet leaving me feeling less alone. The rest of the morning passed quietly. Breakfast, coffee, and the first real smiles since their arrival. Even the horses seemed calmer, the ranch lighter, as if it had exhaled along with us. By noon the sun was high. The shadows that had loomed all night were gone, and so too was the figure who had haunted the darkness. No trace remained. Only the grave I had filled, and the lesson it carried. Life on the frontier would always be harsh. The wind would still whip the plains, the cattle would still stray, and danger could still appear without warning. But that night, I learned something about the living and the dead, about promises, debts, and the strange way fate sometimes balances itself. I looked at the 3 sisters. They were no longer just punishment from a father. They were the start of something new, something worth protecting. And for the first time in 8 long years, I didn't feel the loneliness pressing in, because the frontier had plans, and sometimes those plans were better than you ever imagined.